What's up, everybody? I thought my mic was unmuted, but it's not. We are waiting. We're on the edge. We're on the precipice of those massive green candles everybody's been waiting on. We're getting that move to the upside. We got to test a confirmation move to the downside. The question is, on this somewhat lower high that we have on the very small time frames, are we setting up for a little bit further move down, or is it about to break higher? We got a guest coming on about 30 minutes into the show, but we have some major news and the impacts, what that means, and a date that we're going to be breaking down of when we're looking for absolute debauchery of the bears, destroying them. And while we wait to get this going, everybody, make sure you're retweeting the space. Make sure you're getting involved, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, dinging the bell. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get some tunes pumping. And today it feels good because it's right.
Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. SEC and its policies rely on whatever Gary thinks. Bitcoin's a flight to quality. I heard that from Larry Fink. Every hour losing purchasing power on food and shelter. It's not our fault. Blame the coal. It's the political cowards when it comes to gas. Our purchasing power just got cut in half. I sit back and laugh, open my bag, fill it with stacks and sats. Bitcoin, pumping, altcoins, pumping. I've been preparing for this. Can't tell me nothing.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a flight to quality. We are hearing from clients around the world.
Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pumping. I've been preparing for this.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as
Bitcoin, pump, altcoin, pump.
we are hearing from clients around the world.
Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Crypto, depending on how you think about it. And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a
Can't
flight
nobody
to
tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump.
We are hearing from clients around the world.
Prepare for this.
Are you ready to dive into these charts? Are you ready to dive into these signals? Are you alive, paying attention, engaging with this content? Let me know you are here. Let's do a little bit of a roll call. If you are tuned in, if you are paying attention, get in that live chat. Drop what you're grateful for today. We got to start with gratitude. Everybody that's tuned in, if you're on YouTube or on Twitter, make sure that you are getting engaged, retweeting this on that Twitter. We're going to talk about some really beautiful signals in the charts right now, but it is ready to pop. Are we going to be on the right side of this trade? With that, let's get into it. Big love to each and every single one of you. Yeah. Good bullish morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are tuned in from. My name's Kellam with the BitLab Academy. We've got to talk about the price action right now, and I've been shared a chart this morning in the Discord for those of you that are members on the BitLab Academy side. But this is what we're watching for: a potential either loss of this level. 67.3 is a level that we're watching, and that for me, barring a little bit of a bear trap, would signal that we're likely coming down to this zone. But as it stands right now, we've got the break of this. If you zoom into this is the inverted head and shoulders. We did break out. The target on that, however, is up here at 69,000, about $700. We're about halfway there, but currently we're potentially setting up a little small time frame double top. We got to keep our eyes on what's going on here, but all in all, on the macro, we're doing what we've been wanting to see for so long, but we're not there yet. We cannot pass up the forest for the trees. There are still movements. There is still, I was talking with TJ here in the office at Hit Network this morning. I feel like this is the most anticipated bull market breakout ever. And because of that, we are ripe for a potential wreckage washout that will likely be bought up very strongly, V-shaped recovery before we break out if we get that sell-off. The question is, will we get that, or is the buy pressure too strong? The question is for you, what are you doing about it? How are you preparing? What's your strategy? And what do you want out of this market? What do you want out of this market cycle? Make sure you're setting yourself up for success because we're getting that movement, but we're not quite there yet. Yes, you could argue that we've got on the larger time frame, we've broken out of these descending zones on both levels, and we're finding support right now. If we can hold this 67.3 and start pushing up, take out 69, I think the previous all-time high at 73,600 or so dollars. I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you what's going on. I've got some charts that are going to keep you bullish regardless of what the price action does in the short term. This is not financial advice. This is strategy advice, ways that I have messed up my bags, what I've learned from it, and how we can make sure we can stay on the right side of this trade. Again, if this is your first time here, welcome to BitLab Academy. I love, appreciate, and am grateful for each and every one of you. This is a community where we are doing this together. Bill Brower says, buy pressure is too strong, but that might be a recipe for a disaster, triggering emotional trades if we do get a little bit of a washout. So we got to stay vigilant. Shout out to our channel partners, CoinW and Nord VPN. Both links are directly below this video on the description. If you're watching over on Twitter, make sure as we get this started, let's all do our part and get this content out to more and more people. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. On this stream right here, hit that like button right here, this heart button, hit that retweet. It enters you to win. We draw on Mondays. So even if you're watching this later and it's not live, you can still participate. We got all kind of different prizes that we've given out over the last many weeks. But we got some things to talk about because we're getting all bullish about an hour ago, and now we're getting a little bit of a pullback across all these various alts. But guys and gals and countrymen, we are setting up. Remember, we are below $2.3 trillion. We're back above it. We've been hovering that 2.25 up to $2.33 trillion for some time. I do think this spring is getting coiled so tightly, we don't even know how to even handle what is coming. Kelly caught in the sea in time. I don't know what that means. Caught in the sea in time. I don't know what that means, but big love to you. A shout out to Tater. Hope Alexander G, hope you're feeling better. Big love to everybody that is here. I do appreciate and love you all. Now, continuing on, we could share that later. This is what we're looking at. On time fractal analysis, Bitcoin is following the similar moves with months in 2023. I've been talking about this for some time, but let's look at this through the lens of trader tardigrade here. This is what we're seeing. That let me turn off my face here so you can see under the chart. Boom, there it is. What we're looking at right here is this late July. We had the sell-off into September. September started getting a little bit of a move, a little bit of a bid, and then early October into late to basically the sell-off. This was the first 13, 14 days of October, and then it started to make that move up. And boom, this is what, if we overlay these fractals on where we're at right now, look at how similar these moves are. It's hard to believe things can be this similar. But if it's anything like this, what we're seeing here, if we get anything like it, this is suggesting $180,000 Bitcoin by Q1. Do I think we're going to have $180,000 Bitcoin by Q1? I think that's a little bit lofty. However, it is possible, but I'm not betting on it. I would expect that and I'll show you the numbers here in a second, where I think Bitcoin's going to be at the end of the year, when I think it's going to start kicking up, and why. So let's get into that. We got some things we got to talk about right now. And the question is right now, if you're tuned in, have you hit that like button? Have you subscribed? Have you turned on your notifications? But Bitcoin buy signal flashing. This is at MACD. And we can see the crossover is basically this front ran the FTX sell-off, which nobody could have fully predicted. This is the cascading failures. Oh my God, bear market just flushed out a lot of the issues and the over-leveraged and bad business management in the institutional side of Bitcoin, as well as a lot of people. They'll finalize with the FTX crash. Finally get the MACD crossover here. We did get the cross, but the bullish momentum was mounting underneath. And then we got that move to the upside. So we crossed over again here, moved to the upside. We're just now getting that cross on the MACD here on the 1 week chart, Bitcoin US dollar chart. And we're sitting right here where we've been consolidating, accumulating at previous all-time high. We got the roundingness right here. We got the setup of our lifetime right now. So everybody, if you are a member on this channel and you have those emojis, drop as many bull emojis in the live chat as you can right now. Let's get it flying with bull emojis because the setup is here. The setup is so strong that I do think it is ripe for a bit of something that's going to shake some people up. So keep your eyes out for that. That is not going to discount the massive amount of bullishness that we have in the market. In fact, when we continue on, let's make sure we engage with content when we're looking at it. Now looking at this next one, U.S. spot Bitcoin ETF demand hit a 6-month high with net flows totaling 64,962 Bitcoin over 30 days, almost 65,000 Bitcoin in a month. And you're worried at these levels. Let me take it one step further. Okay, well, here we go. Net capital inflow into Bitcoin asset has accelerated, increasing by $21.8 billion over the last 30 days, resulting in realized cap ticking up to new all-time high, reaching 646 billion, suggesting that liquidity across the asset class is rising. What do we need for this to push? We need the fuel in the tank so we can drive up that mountain. And we've got an increase in that liquidity and meaningful capital inflows supporting the price is likely going to increase soon. So let's go ahead and hit the like button because I really like that. Now, the next thing up, what do we got? Look at this. This is, we've been talking about this, the whale holdings. Whale holdings are at an all-time high. Whales currently hold around 670,000 Bitcoin, which is the highest value ever. Undoubtedly, this is an optimistic long-term sign. Excuse me. Whales stacking. I'm talking, we had some stacking here. Look at the aggressiveness of this. Why would this be? I want you all to realize right now what we just entered January 11th this last year when the Bitcoin spot ETFs got approved. Now we have the best financial product salesman in the world, Larry Fink, and also Fidelity and Van Eck and ARK Invest, and also just we have a little bit of legacy. It's very small compared to any other market. 14 years, almost, I guess, 15 years for Bitcoin. But the fact that we have BlackRock and whether or not you like BlackRock, they're the largest asset manager in the history of the world. We got Fidelity, we got Van Eck, but most importantly, the amount of capital that has come into these ETFs has broken the records of any asset in the history of any asset ever that's had an ETF. This has put the world on notice about the necessity and the conviction needed that Bitcoin is the best asset, and it is something that you are irresponsible if you're not holding. We're seeing the dominoes fall right before our eyes. Every one of you, if you were here before January 11th, you were here before basically nearly every institution. If you've gotten in this last year, you're still ahead of 99% of institutions. But this is showing, this is the flip. This is the flippening right here of, oh, I need to pay attention to Bitcoin. Not everybody's in yet at all. In fact, it's still so early, but this is the whales realizing that the institutions are going to have to make that decision at some point in the very near future or be left behind. This is saying you are on notice, you are going to have Bitcoin, or you are not going to exist, most likely, let's say in 15 years. If you're an institution, if you are a corporation, MicroStrategy, the best performing asset in the traditional market, outpacing NVIDIA, outpacing Microsoft, outpacing Apple, outpacing Amazon, outpacing everything. And it's because they took the Bitcoin strategy. This is putting the world on notice. And we also have that regulatory clarity because we got these Bitcoin spot ETFs. The world is recognizing this. Registered investment advisors are starting to push it. Corporations and institutions see the value now because it's talked about by people they trust, and they realize that there's ways to do it. In fact, there's even some dates coming up that are making it very easy, even outside of the Bitcoin spot ETFs. The world is waking up to Bitcoin. The question is, are you going to change your action strategy within the crypto ecosystem, whether you're in it or not? If you're kind of dabbling, are you going to front run all this big money, or are you going to sit on the sidelines only to be a basically hype cycle buyer at the top? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Peter John Lurham says ETHFUD is at its most bearish that it's ever been right now. And, TJ and I were talking about that this morning, about ETH kind of feeling for a lot of people like it's dead. It's just not going to perform. I actually think that ETH is a little bit of a sleeping giant in this market, this cycle, as long also with Polygon Matic, because people have been looking at all these other shiny new things. But at the end of the day, the majority of the crypto ecosystem, other than Bitcoin, the majority of all those alts are built on the ERC20. They're within the Ethereum ecosystem. So do not sleep on Ethereum. I still think it's going to have its day in the sun. Now, looking on to the next data point right here, short-term holder coins are trading at a 6.2% NAV premium, and a premium of 25% or higher would indicate an overheated market. It's at 6.2%. 25% or higher is overheated. This is where we're at. We'd have to get all the way up into this region before it starts getting overheated. In fact, when you get really large, this was 25% right here. When you get really large, strong movements like this parabola, then the overheatedness comes in when you get well above 50 up into this 75% range. This is where we're at right now. It has not yet even begun. What we are going to see in this market in the next 14 months, I expect. This is not financial advice. This is looking at the strategy of how these markets have oscillated and moved over time, and the fact that we have global liquidity about to get injected in a major way. There's no way the U.S. or any other government out there can service their insane debt from their insane spending without printing more money. So we have money printing. We got the election. We got the Bitcoin halving cycle, the days post-halving cycle that we tend to have the consolidation that now we've eclipsed that amount of time that we've seen historically. And this is where we're sitting while price is at $67,000, $68,000. And we haven't even begun yet. Imagine right now, this price action. It's hard to imagine where it's going to go, but let's look at this analog. This right here would be similar to somewhere in this region or this region right here before we had the price action move from all the way down here, just boom, all the way up to the upside. If you want to get a little bit more conservative, we have one test, two tests. Okay, let's see. One test, back down, two tests, back down, somewhere in this region. If you want to be a little bit more conservative, three tests, right into this zone. This is still a massively explosive move from here all the way up into that $20,000 range. So we've got so much room to grow here. Let's not get bored by the fact that this mansion is being built before our eyes. Jumper DCS World, back engineering. If the average Bitcoin mining costs $80K per Bitcoin now, and we have a new drawback in the bear market, let's say 75% down under mining costs, it would be $365K high this cycle. Thoughts? I think that's going to be a big question. The thing that it's hard to really predict or expect is what happens with Bitcoin, with the buyers, with the different people out there, the participants in the market. What happens when we break 100K? Do we get is that a big sell-off point because people can't imagine above 100? Do we get a super, super large influx? Once we actually break through 100K with authority and volume, where is that at in the timeline? Is that in January? Is that in March? Is that in July? Where we break 100K with follow through. I don't mean to push up and then sell off down to 75. And then I'm talking about when we actually have the full breakthrough where we're starting to get that consistent push to run higher. Where that is in the cycle is going to be a pretty big determining factor of where where we could go in this cycle. Can we get 365? Sure. Dr. Jeff Ross, who runs a hedge fund, he runs the most, I think the most profitable hedge fund in the U.S. right now. It's a private hedge fund, and he's predicting 450K. I think that's a little lofty. I think honestly, somewhere in the 140K on the low side to upward into 225K. Somewhere, and I know that's a big range, but it's going to depend on how much adoption flood that we have coming into the market and how many of these different corporations and institutions truly start to take some part, even if it's a 1%, 5%, 20%, we'll have to see allocation of their cash treasuries, basically their cash on hand, how much money, how much Bitcoin they're going to basically get exposure to Bitcoin. Or Bitcoin related products like ETFs. So in the 300K range, that means we've had an incredible run. I mean, anything, I think if we get anything over 170, every $10 over that is going to be phenomenal. But all in all, we are in for a hell of a ride this cycle. So let's keep our wits about us. Let's realize that we have so much room to go. It's only just begun. That's what we got to realize. Now, we got 301 people in the room right now. Shout out to each and every one of you. Just a reminder, make sure you're coming over here to @KellyKellam. Remember the spelling. There's only one of me. There's 100 different fake profiles. Kelly, Kellam, and then come down to this post. Hit that retweet, hit that like button right here. It enters you to win. We do a giveaway that we draw every Monday. Even if you're watching this not live, you can hit that retweet, hit that like button, show some love. If you're watching here on YouTube, head over to the Twitter. Also, head over. You can also do it through @Academy BitLab. That's the BitLab Academy Twitter page. And show some love. Hit that like button and subscribe button. Ding in the bell here on the live stream here as well. Now, so we've only just begun. But what else is there? Let's hit that like button there because we're using this chart. But looking right here, a huge move is coming, and I've been talking about this for some time. But look at this pinch. A huge move is coming. Bitcoin 2-week Bollinger Bands are among the 3 tightest instances in history. That is this zone right here, this zone right here, and this zone right here, which you can see each time. This was at the beginning of this 2016, 2017 run. This was at the end of last summer. I mean, this is tighter constriction than we saw back here in the 2019 into 2020 run. And that makes sense because you had this large movement and this big sell-off. That's volatility. These Bollinger Bands are accounting for the volatility that has been in the market over a given period of time. Shout out to Falco giving 5 memberships, gifting 5 memberships. You're gifting in here every day, my friend. I love you. I appreciate you. Shout out for showing some love here in the channel, in the fam. Big love to you all. But the 2-week is showing constriction. And when you have a constriction, basically consolidation of price action, you tend to have that rotated and then oscillate into large expansion of volatility. And when we have so much bullishness underlying right now, that suggests that the macro move, this expansion, is going to be to the upside. Now, guys, the lower bound of this, which would not even add expansion of this at all, is down to $52,000. You can see this right here. So even with the sell-off, we'd still be within this Bollinger Band deal. And that $52,000 range, and I'm not calling for it, I'm just pointing out, that $52,000 range would essentially be this low right here, which effectively we would still, if we bounced anywhere above this zone right here, we'd still be in this multi-month higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And then this would be a higher, anywhere in this region. Any of these targets that we have mapped out would be a higher low. Now, additionally, let me retract all those statements so I don't sound like Kamala Harris. So in addition to that, what we can see here is we do have a 2 kind of pass I'm watching. If we do lose this 67.3, I'm watching for in this zone what happens with the volume and the momentum and any of the strength. Are we going to Are we going to get a washout? Are we going to get an opportunity down here in this $64,000 region again? Let's go over to the liquidity and see that all we did was come up here and slice through this liquidity. Are we going to come back down here, slice through this liquidity? On the 12-hour, there's not much below us, but let's zoom out a little bit and realize we still have a pretty big pocket here in the 66.6 all the way up to the 67.3 zone. So there is a possibility that if we lose this, some people are going to lose their mind and start shorting their minds out. There's a possibility that this loss, if it does come down in here, that it is a bear trap because of all this liquidity that's right here. If we slice into this and just bounce out of this, that was just a liquidity scoop. If we have volume follow through that pushes us down, we may come down here. And what level did I say before? Are we going to get down to that $64,000 range? Look at where that next pocket of liquidity is. If we have a map on the chart, we have an idea of what to do. And there's going to be some nuanced moves here in the next couple weeks, especially coming into the election that we have November 5th. Which I think is going to be a big catalyst, because whether or not who wins, again, there's still uncertainty in the markets a little bit because there's so much focus on what's happening politically right now. And so I applaud anybody if you're voting, whatever side you're voting for. Everybody can have their own opinions. I really do think that everybody should have the right to their own opinion. And I might lean one way or the other, but listen, I love each and every one of you. I want you all to do well in this market. That's why I break down these signals on a daily basis. 340 people in the room. Big love to each and every one of you. I really do appreciate each one of you being here. Now, coming back over to what we're looking at, 2-week Bollinger Bands are suggesting something's coming. So let's go to that next chart. Here is, look at this. I don't know why this looks like this. This is odd. $30 billion in shorts will be liquidated if we hit $70,000. If we clear this, and especially if we clear this, that is so much money. Let's actually look at this. That's so big, I wonder if it is a typo. Let's look at it. So 17 million. What chart is this guy looking at? That's why you got to don't trust but verify. Let's do this. This must be on a larger time frame. So let's look at the larger time frame. Larger time frame. 2-week chart. Okay, not much. So yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. That must be. So I saw that, and as I was reading it, it's like that doesn't look. Now it's 30 million. So he must have meant to write 30 million. So this 50 million, 40 million. There's quite hundreds of millions between here and $70,000. Not 30 billion. But the point is, we do have more liquidity above us than we do below us. We do have some pockets down in here, but the magnets to the upside, the pressures to the upside, everything is suggesting upside. And I want to call this out again. Because everything's suggesting upside, I do think that there's a pretty big opportunity for this to really jack some people up and get a move that really kind of scares some people. When max pain is felt is usually when things get sent. So let's be aware of that. And we're going to go ahead and close that out. Now, this is what I'm saying. I expect the first week into the second week, so in through about December 12th, to be God candle explosion zone for Bitcoin. You can mark this, put it on your calendars, check back with me. If I'm wrong, we'll call it out, but this is what I'm expecting. That's because we have the FASB rules going live, which is the fair value accounting, which is going to open up the ability to much more comfortably have corporations and institutions buying Bitcoin and putting it on their balance sheets. That happens, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, I believe that's December 7th. FASB rules go live that within the same day or two period. You also have the FTX $16 billion in distributions that are going out. And that's not crypto that's being sold. That is USDT that is getting distributed out to crypto focused people that have been sidelined. $16 billion in this market has been sidelined. Now, will 100% of it go back into deploying into crypto? Absolutely not. But I would venture to guess it'd be over 80%. Even if it's 50%, let's be very conservative. 50% is $8 billion that's going to basically get reallocated into the crypto market. Then on top of that, the volatility of the post-election has played out. Whether we get a pump or a sell-off or whatever, remember, on both sides, there's all this speculation about what's going to go on. So I do expect there's going to be some volatility around the first couple of weeks, first 2 weeks of November. Got that full moon mid-November as well. But then in addition to that, this bull pressure, I don't think you can just hold it down any longer. And you can also see Quentin, our boy, commented here. He said, 100%, bro. FASB is so underhyped. He actually did a post about this huge corporate Bitcoin adoption coming December. And then in addition to this one, let me post, we see Crypto Thanos also, another big account out here thinking that there's going to be some pivotal things here. Now, with that being said, we also have to make sure as more attention comes into this space, you're more and more ripe to have bad actors in this space take advantage of you. And with that, I do want to shout out, we are partnered with Nord VPN. Head over to nordvpn.com/BitLab. The link is directly below. If you scroll down right here and click on more, expand this, you see Get Nord VPN 4 months. You get it 4 months free if you sign up through our link. That's nordvpn.com/BitLab. You can set the location of where your IP address is coming from, mask your location to help protect yourself, basically having a VPN set up. Also, if you're somewhere like Turkey or somewhere else where they're not allowing you to get on sites like a Discord, or if there's an exchange you can't participate in, I will say make sure you're following all the rules and regulations of your land. But realize that a lot of times those different things that you're trying to use that you can't use because you're in the US or you can't use because you're in Turkey, that is for the companies themselves. As an individual, you're still allowed to use those. Sometimes you need to get a VPN. Make sure you're setting yourself up for success and protecting yourself from security risk. nordvpn.com/BitLab, and you get 4 months free. Now, with that being said, I do want to say, let's check in on Bitcoin. We got a guest coming on here in just a couple minutes. He was in here a second ago, but he dropped off, but he's going to be coming back. So we're watching this like a hawk, and just realize, because if this gets lost with this candle is telling me it may. This candle is telling me the bulls made a pretty strong attempt on the 8-hour chart, came way back down. We got to pay attention to what's happening here. M double top right in this zone. We may be losing this, but we could talk a little bit more about some price action. But we got a wonderful guest, somebody that I've known for a couple minutes, who's got a pretty good idea. Some of you may or may not know his story, but we're going to dive in here with Mr. TJ Shed, who's coming up on the screen right now.
Hey, what's up, Kelly?
My friend?
How are you doing?
You know what? Let me get that beautiful lower third just popping right onto your face. Bam! TJ Shed, everybody. One of the founders here at Hit Network. And for those of you that don't know, he's been in the crypto game for quite a long time, years, 2016, 2017 timeframe. So we don't need to go through the whole story. But how are you feeling about the markets right now? What the hell's going on? Is this about to break down? Is this going to go up? Or are you just looking long term?
I am looking long term. I'm feeling great about the market right now. Couldn't be feeling more bullish. As a lot of you guys know who watch what I say in other places, I am a full-time bull here at the office, the long-term optimist. And looking at the charts, looking at the macro, looking at the global liquidity, all the different things that are, cycling through right now, I've never probably been more bullish than what I'm feeling right now. I know back in 2019, 2020, moving into the 2020 cycle, I was feeling pretty bullish, but obviously there was a lot going on with the pandemic, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty with Bitcoin. And, Bitcoin crashed all the way down to 3,600. And at that point, as much conviction as I had in Bitcoin, I did buy, but there was still a point of questioning, like, am I wrong about this? Maybe I misjudged it. We were heading into an inflationary environment. All these things that should have been bullish for Bitcoin were happening, and the price was going down. And you had that question of like, maybe all this stuff I've thought for all these years was wrong. I do not feel that way in any way, shape, or form now. And I feel like there's a lot of other people that same thing, like it has proven itself that it has a place in this market at this point as an inflation hedge, as a flight to quality, as a security, a long-term thing, as a gold alternative. So now it's just it's a matter of when, not if. So there's no more if in my prediction. It's just a matter of when and how high. And so I still subscribe to the 4-year cycle. We're moving into the most bullish part of that, which happens every 4 years based on the supply and demand and the halving cycles of Bitcoin. So yeah, seeing ETFs, nations buying it, institutions buying it, major corporations putting it on their balance sheet. There's never been, I don't think you could look across the entire history of Bitcoin and find any other period for Bitcoin that's been more bullish than we are right now as far as adoption. So
do you remember 2017? That was when just randomly there'd be something that was like on The Simpsons, there would just be Bitcoin for a split second, and the Bitcoin would pump 15%. And now every single day there are instances and just I think of it like we're building a house. We have built the strongest foundation, and this is not a foundation for an outhouse. We have built the foundation for an absolute compound. It's kind of like what you're seeing, what they're building in Dubai, that mini mile. I mean, this is what's being built. I cannot believe the bullish pressure. And that brings us a little bit to today's news. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. This is, of course, Microsoft is discussing putting it on their balance sheet. And even Michael Saylor got in the mix here and said, hey, Satya Nadella, if you want to make the next $1 trillion for Microsoft shareholders, call me. And then in addition to that, you see, guess who Microsoft's second largest shareholder is? BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street. And then to wrap that portion up, British Hodl said Microsoft pumping hard at the open because of the Bitcoin news, pumped 3 times harder than Apple. And the board, the people that are saying, no, we shouldn't. And then you say, oh, just on the news this pumped. They cannot ignore this. So what do you think this means? Do you think, and I saw that DZ posted 33 billion. That was from 2023. They have $75 billion in cash on hand. 75. Wow. 1% of that is 750 million. 10% of that is 7.5 billion. And do you think this may start a little bit of a Bitcoin arms race between the Mag 7 and be the signal of that next major series of dominoes to fall? What are we to make of this?
Yeah, no, it absolutely will. Wall Street is generally a monkey see, monkey do type of business. When they see another business adopting the strategy and seeing immediate results from it, I mean, they're already talking about it. They're talking about it both amongst the boards and amongst the executives. So Twitter did it. They held their billion. I think you're going to continue to see many, many, many more corporations do this. So, I mean, it's basically a playbook for free money that's played out for MicroStrategy. It's kind of shocking. I would say it's actually shocking more companies haven't adopted this faster, because they let MicroStrategy run this play for 4 years now. And it's been a runaway favorite, not only adding to their balance sheet, but also just seeing their stock price go absolutely parabolic. So if it becomes a great strategy, and we saw this happen, you were mentioning 2017, how almost anything would pump prices. Just adding some kind of Bitcoin or blockchain concept or something to a website or a ticker on a dying publicly traded stock back in 2017 would make it pump. It would get a $10 million in market cap overnight, because they say, oh, we're moving towards, blockchain or crypto. We're well more mature than that at this point. But yes, I mean, basically, you're going to see, I think, a lot of those big ones, they're probably all going to move towards, is for a round target, probably $1 billion. I think we're going to see, you threw out several different numbers. I don't think it's going to be, oh, we want 1% or we want 10%. I mean, I guess they'll convert it. Like, they'll probably take 7%, but I think it's going to be like Twitter has $1 billion. They probably want to have $1 billion. Or if Microsoft buys $1 billion, Apple's probably going to want $1 billion. They want to know what the other parties are doing. I mean, and you think about the companies that are leading the stock market are the most likely companies to understand the technology, to be able to profit from the technology. If you think about the NVIDIAs, you think about the Metas and the Apple, obviously Microsoft, Netflix maybe is still in there, but these are all digitally based global companies that have reasons to transfer like the number one use for Bitcoin so far. Obviously, global remittance, being able to move money around the world. And I've said this since I very first got into Bitcoin. Basically, what does Bitcoin do? It speeds up the world by 5 to 7 business days. Because before, if you're a company like Apple and you want to move $100 million from somewhere in the US to somewhere in Europe or Asia, there is no fast and efficient way you can do that over traditional rails. It's going to take days upon days to make a transfer like that happen. Now you can do it in minutes and at micro cost with something like Bitcoin. So companies right now, they're just starting to understand the value of it, just starting to put it on their balance sheet. They're just starting to see the price appreciation from this move. They haven't even really started to appreciate and feel the effects of the actually using Bitcoin for its use case. And we're seeing, big exchanges. It'll be interesting how long before coin starts to become one of the magnificent 7 on the stock market, or some of these other, MicroStrategy, obviously a top performer. They've got a ways to go, but with them holding more Bitcoin than anybody else, and if Bitcoin, imagine if Bitcoin hits 100K, how smart Tesla is going to look, how smart, how much do you think SpaceX already has? So that's the part that I think is lost on a lot of people, is the amount of holdings for private companies. Because if you don't think private equity companies are hearing Microsoft talking about this and saying, you know what, we might want to front run this trend, I think you're just fooling yourself. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really, really bullish momentum coming when it comes to Bitcoin being added to balance sheets. If nations are doing it, corporations are going to be doing it.
Well, I mean, before you came on, I brought up this chart from CryptoQuant, and this shows, the difference in the whale stacking here versus, we had little periods of stacking, but this is so aggressive, and it's at an all-time high region. Why would this be? And
Wow.
I speak of this like Epoch 1 and Epoch 2. Basically, the real early adopters are basically everything up until January 10th of this year. January 11th onward, and especially after Q1, where we saw all the institutions starting to layer in, I see this as the 670,000 Bitcoin that are held by whales. Look at this. This is I think, smart money that realized that the dominoes are about to fall. And this right here is not a top. This is an absolute, the best springboard we've ever had for so much higher.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We have more actual wealth accumulating Bitcoin than ever before, right? This is old money, so to speak. Before, it was all new money. It was new players to the game. It was new tech. It was people that were early adopters and saw the trend early. Now it's made it to the smart money, or the old money that is positioning itself to set up a new financial paradigm. And that is what we're experiencing this cycle. It's a true global financial shift. And Bitcoin, obviously, the big winner this time. So it's good to see the wealth of the world coming to the world's most valuable asset and best asset for preserving wealth. It's not a surprise that the people that preserve wealth are here. It's just, it's just funny that we beat them, and I'm happy that we beat them here, and happy to use Bitcoin to change my life and the life of so many people I know and have met. And, let's just ride this new revolution.
So Ethereum has had a slow death. Oh my God. It's dead. It's only Sui now and Aptos and Solana. Or is this building into, basically, people aren't paying attention to it, and this is going to have its day in the sun? What's your thoughts on Ethereum and what's happening with the price levels and so on and so forth?
My thoughts on Ethereum: it's been a painful hold. I will say that. It feels like nothing is ever going to happen. The emotions of it are not fun, right? It feels worse than it ever has before, as far as like, when are you ever going to do anything, Ethereum? That being said, I do think it is underbought right now. I do think it's a buying opportunity. I think it will be one of the better performers. No, I'm not sold yet on Sui and Solana. I mean, I'm sure, speculate on them. I think they can do well. But no, I'm not all in on these other altcoins and abandoning Ethereum. I think when you look at all these companies I just talked about, BlackRock and Microsoft, the US government, treasuries, all these different things, when you take all of that into consideration, Visa, Sony, Optimism, all of these big organizations, it's all being built on Ethereum, right? What Ethereum has and continues to do well is its security layer and its settlement layer, and that's not changing. Decentralized finance, a new world of finance, is built on Ethereum. Now, you want to play with some meme coins, you want to, download a wallet and, run things up on TikTok, fine. Use Solana. There's nothing wrong with that. Solana is a great project. It's centralized, but it can do things quick and fast, and it's fun and it's easy to use, and it's got a good user experience. So I'm not taking anything away from Solana, but that doesn't mean Solana is going to replace Ethereum. A lot of people right now, I think, are hating on Ethereum. And I think it will have its day in the sun. I don't think it will necessarily recapture retail's attention. I think a lot of what Ethereum does well is a little bit more sophisticated than what the typical retail trader wants or cares about. And like I said, that's why there's other projects for it. But as far as if you want to see treasury bills going on chain, that's not going to happen on Solana. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen on pretty much any other chain other than Ethereum that I can see at this point. So I still think the layer twos are doing what they're supposed to do. I think the Optimism stack is actually doing a great job of bringing new institutions on chain and creating a on-chain reality with things like Base. I think Kraken creating Inc. will actually have a pretty big impact. If you don't think many other institutions are going to follow suit with what the two largest, I don't know if you consider them largest, but heavily weighted as far as Bitcoin holdings between Coinbase and Kraken. If they're doing this, I think you're going to continue to see this trend proliferate out over this system over time. So Ethereum, still big for me on DeFi. The layer twos are working. I think the network effect will take hold and kick in over time. Still think there's room for Solana. Still think there's room for Avalanche. I do think other layer ones can run. You mentioned Sui and Aptos. I think they could potentially have a good cycle, but there's a long, all of these projects, not only in market cap, they're way behind on market cap before they catch Ethereum, but they're really far behind on infrastructure, on developer community. Now, using different programming languages like Move, referring to Sui and Aptos, Rust, that sort of stuff, I think it makes sense. It gives them definitely a good developer pool to tap into. But Ethereum, when it comes to DeFi and decentralization, I think there's very few people that, or I don't see anything else that sticks true to decentralization the way Bitcoin and Ethereum does. And that has a huge value to global wealth that's competing on a global stage all around the world. They do not trust each other. And that's the whole point of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Solana requires a fair amount of trust if you're going to put hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in there. So just my take.
So is Base just a temporary narrative thing right now because it blew up onto the scene this year? Or is that going to be something that sustains? And we're seeing things like Aerodrome, we're seeing things like Moonwell do really well. Or is this going to be something that shifts because it's only a temporary thing? Or what's your thoughts on Base going into this next year?
Sure. Great question. Actually, I think that's a really good thing to think about. And I think the answer to both is yes. Yes, it is, I think, a temporary hype phase right now where Base ecosystem, it's new, it's developing. So it's, I would say, easier to get in early on things. So like you mentioned Arrow, we were talking on the show this morning, and DZ and I have been talking about Moonwell. It's a lending protocol on Base. And just saying, okay, hey, what do we know works well in crypto? Okay, we know DEXs, they're needed on a chain. So if you can find, you get into Jupiter on Solana, you get into Aerodrome on Base, and as that ecosystem takes off, it's a pretty safe bet. Similar with lending protocols. Hey, people want to earn yield and do DeFi within things. So hey, let's get in early on a lending protocol within Base. So as that grows, yes, it is a somewhat of a trend or a narrative that makes sense right now for this cycle. I think it's a good opportunity for a lot of people to make money if you guys haven't explored that ecosystem yet. And as time continues, I don't see Coinbase, Base, they're partnered right up with USDC, Circle. That is, I think, what's going to be, and what I've talked about. I've talked about USDC being the number one stablecoin winner, I think, since 2019. I've been saying, Goldman Sachs is the one behind Circle, which when you think USDC, think Goldman Sachs. When you think Goldman Sachs, think US government. So if you think about who is proliferating the use of the dollar, the US dollar coin all around the world, it is basically the forces behind the US government. And so Coinbase aligned with that. I continue to see Base ecosystem doing extremely well. I think the opportunity is the highest now, but I also think it's going to be a long-term ecosystem that's here for years to come in crypto.
Well, you just made a really good point about USDT and USDC, discussing potentially USDC basically taking over from USDT. And I think some people would say you see such a huge gap right now with Tether sort of dominating globally. But, what I try to remind people of is we are still such a new industry that when we get this next wave of adoption, when we get the next round of new retail and new institutions coming in over the next 12 months, I expect 12 months from now, we're going to have more new people that come in than have ever been in the market before. So if they're, especially in the US, if we're getting a huge wave of adoption and the majority of them are coming in through Coinbase is very focused on implementing and integrating onboarding people on the USDC side. So you do make a good point. Everybody, if you look back in 2017 or even 2019 to now, the top 10, top 20 coins on CoinMarketCap have shifted dramatically. And it's the same thing can happen with the major player, the dominant player within the stablecoin sort of realm. So we've had such great conversation around all these different things. I'm going to let you go in a second, but I got another question for you. We talked about Bitcoin. We talked about Ethereum. We mentioned a sort of handful of other coins out there. And again, before he says this, everybody, this is not financial advice. This is just talking with two people that have been OGs in the space for some time. Well, give me 3 or 4 other altcoins that you kind of have your eye on that you think are going to, maybe they're risky, maybe they're not. What's your sort of thoughts that you're like, I'm really watching this one, whether it's something like Aether or something I don't know about. Like, what do you like? These are my kind of secret gems that I like. I want these motherfuckers to roll.
Secret gems. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned a few there that I like, Aerodrome. Aave is one that I think is going to have a renaissance as far as like speaking of lending protocols. I see that coming back pretty heavily, obviously working with the Trump team on what is that, World Liberty Finance, their token there. So Aave is one that I've seen doing really well that I've accumulated. Near protocol, again, it's not a secret. A lot of people like Near. Aerodrome, Jupiter. I guess Thorchain Rune is one that doesn't get talked about a lot. It's another lending DeFi type coin. You can do Bitcoin and Ethereum on it. You can trade on it, decentralized, injective. I mean, there's a lot. These are more conservative picks. These are ones that I think will do well through this cycle based on a lot of the stuff we just talked about. I mean, I'm still bullish Bitcoin, Ethereum, hold some Chainlink. I'd say Avalanche is one I'm looking to buy right now. I think very impressed with what they've done with off the grid, as well as when you look at other major large partnerships as far as institutional. Avalanche seems to be in that conversation a lot, along with Ethereum. So, as far as I know, they did some stuff with Amazon, and I was literally looking at something last night. Maybe it's OP that is doing something with Avalanche. I can't remember, but as far as the deep one, I mean, we mentioned Moonwell on base. I think that was 300 something on coin, or like 400 something on CoinMarketCap when I first saw it. It's at an all-time high right now, so careful with that one. But I mean, it's performed well. I mean, it was at an all-time high when I first looked at it too. So you can see it's making.
Yeah, I bought it, and I told everybody that's paying attention in the BitLab Discord and also here on the channel, I bought it on this breakout right here about a week and a half ago, and it's up like 60% or something since right now 45, but it got up to about 60% up. This is very early in that, but you know what? The never-ending frustrating coin until it pumps. Is Cardano dead?
Is it dead? No, Cardano is not dead. I do think if you look at Cardano's history, it tends to have a one large, decisive, euphoric move towards the end of the cycle. And so if you look up, look at, what is this, in the end of 2020, just almost straight to the top in 2021. So I have a feeling we'll see something like that, similar with Cardano, a nice move in 2025. I don't think we're going to see much.
Yeah, look at this, everybody. I just overlaid Bitcoin with Cardano. Bitcoin started pushing up, and for the Cardano to get its push up, it took another almost 3 months, 80 days before this had its move. So things just kind of lag.
Yeah, so I wouldn't. Now, like I said, it's not dead. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. Do I hold a lot? Yes. Do I hold more than I probably should? Probably. Will I move some of that bag between now and the end of this cycle? Yes, but I probably won't sell it all, because I do believe, call it summer of 25, May, June, I think we're going to see Cardano absolutely ripping. I do think we could see it, well above $1 to, even making new highs, but back towards that $3 range. So when it happens quick and fast. So it's really hard for me to abandon it now. But that being said, I wish I had less of it, if that makes sense. So.
All right, last two for you. Are you bullish on Render for this cycle, or do you feel like some of their narratives played out and it's not going to have the same sort of resurgence?
I am bullish on Render because of the narrative, more the narrative than the actual project, if that makes sense. So I do think the narrative has shown itself, but I think it's going to remain strong. And AI rendering narrative, I think, will still probably be one of the top narratives for the rest of this cycle. AI coins having a huge amount of mind share. So I think Render fits that. It's safe. It's in that category. It's got the Solana, effect, as far as it's probably the most real project on Solana outside of maybe Jupiter that I look at anyway. So it's interesting to me. I like it. I wouldn't recommend anybody against buying it necessarily. So yeah, but it's not something I hold right now. It's not something I've accumulated a lot of, but I think it's a solid project.
And then the last one for you, and then we'll wrap out with your section. Tau BitTensor, man, I did a little bit of a deep dive on this, just to share it with the community. And because of the deep dive, I was like, I'm buying this right now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I ended up buying it just before. It was about right here in this zone right here. And then this, of course, was like, what? I'm human. Yeah, I'm supposed to look forward, but this was like, but you know what? I said, okay, I'm going to stack into it. So I bought up here. I bought some more down here, and it's kind of set a base. And then, man, this just exploded. Had a little bit of a rising wedge, a little bit of a pullback. I mean, I think anything under where we're at now, anything under 500 would be an absolute steal. If we get the price back to 357, that would be extraordinary. But this, for me, it rides the AI narrative so perfectly, but it's also a depend play. It's our AI infrastructure for basically building economies and marketplace for AI production. So this rides two narratives, and it has 21 million total tokens. And you see people like Chamath Palihapitiya, I can't say his name. Chamath Palihapitiya. Yeah. From the All In podcast, speaking positively on this. And so I'm very bullish on this. How do you feel?
Yeah, this is one I didn't know a ton about. I knew the high level. Actually, I probably just learned. I didn't know anything about the depend factor that you just mentioned. So I knew it had an AI play to AI infrastructure play, but I didn't really know a ton about it. So I didn't really want to comment too much. It's definitely been a good price mover, but it does fit narrative wise. I will say concept wise, it's probably a little ahead of its time, a little early, but that doesn't necessarily matter. We're in a speculation market. And so this is one I could see. Yeah. Very high speculation, very high hype, good price run in this cycle. You make a lot of money, but don't hold it into the bear, because reality will set in and people will be like, wait a minute, maybe we aren't quite as close to, AI agents and bots and all these things just operating 100% on their own as we think we are. Maybe that's more like an 8-year play than a 2-year play. And that's been the number one thing I've learned in this entire journey through crypto and blockchain and speculation is most of these things take a lot longer to turn into reality than it seems like when we first hear about it. Because so the example I use all the time, when I was first getting in 2017, there was all these, there was like Sun Contract and Power Ledger and all these things that were about having decentralized energy sharing and power and harnessing solar and helping it go really far. And it made sense in theory if it was a private system on a closed energy grid and you could do all this stuff and you didn't have to work with governments. Well, problem is every county has its power, and these things don't necessarily scale the way it seems like they should. And I would say most of these projects are like that, where it's going to actually take 10 years before the real world is ready to adopt this sort of stuff. We're early adopters. We can see the reality before it happens, so we're all excited. Oh, this is going to happen in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Well, now it's been almost 8-9 years that I've been in crypto, and we've made it. We've got some smart contracts. We figured out a layer 2. We actually got some liquidity on decentralized exchanges, but no, every person isn't walking around as their individual token, and all the assets of the world aren't on chain yet, but they probably will be, by the time I'm a
It's
grandpa.
kind of like if Henry Ford made the
Yes.
Model T, and the same day he made the Model T, he opened massive factories with, because he's the one that came up with that bit. What do you call it? The assembly line.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have made sense. He could have hired a bunch of people and there would have been no orders, because it took, 5, 8, 12-year period for people to be like, oh yeah. And then you get the demand. And then, so we do need to realize all this is so exciting, but we're we're still VCs in this marketplace.
Totally. To play on your analogy, it'd be like when the first couple Model Ts rolled off the lot, and then we're out there saying, man, these things are so amazing. We're going to have highways where people are driving 60 miles an hour, and we're going to get from this place to this place in this time frame. And people are like, I don't know about all that. And we were right. It just took years for them to build roads, and then to build lights, and then to build freeways, and all, and for the technology of the cars to catch up. That's pretty much where we are with blockchain. Is like, you can see the vehicle, and the vehicle is going to take us to from point A to point B at the rate that we're talking about. And it's absolutely going to change the world and blow everybody's mind, but it's going to take about 15 years for the car to get there, for the computers to get there, for the, instead of the highways, think about like the data to be able to go back and forth, or the transaction speed, for example, of Ethereum and Bitcoin to get caught up to what the world actually needs to be able to do this settlement. So that's kind of how I look at it. So temper your expectations when it comes to actually seeing these things have real world use case, but speculate with your, with the biggest dreamer's mind. And if you can dream it, you can speculate on it. So enjoy.
Hey, TJ, check this out. To wrap this out on that point, talk about forward thinking. Henry Ford in 1921 said Ford would replace gold with energy currency and stop wars. So, of course, the ideas can be there, but it takes some time for them not only to gestate, but to also get to a point where you have the technology, the means, and the appetite for those things to actually be implemented and used in a real way. Man, I'm so bullish on this next year. The frustration is going to be all worth it. I just couldn't be more bullish. I giggle sometimes. But golly, man, you got any closing thoughts before we wrap this out and send everybody over to flood over into Blockchain Basement?
No, I would just say happy Friday. Keep stacking Bitcoin. What do they say? Stack sats and stay humble, right? Keep building your Bitcoin stack. Don't let it go to your head. Stay humble. Bitcoin can change your life. Hopefully you can help use it to change somebody else's life as well. Call your mom, high five your friend, buy some Bitcoin, be happy. That's all I got. Thanks, Kelly.
That's all we got. Everybody, thank you, TJ, for being here. Make sure you follow him over at @hitnetwork_. And every one of you have a wonderful weekend. We're going to be coming back to you, content all the time, tools, resources, content, and meaningful community. Again, thank you, TJ, for being here. That's all we got for today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Adios. And special quadruple double shout out to Falco gifting some memberships in here. I appreciate you so much. And also thank you to Crypto Billy, and thank you to Jumper DCS World for the super chat. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Let's stay positive. This market is about to change some lives. Do not get frustrated with a little bit of choppiness along the way before we get that breakout, because it's so close. I love you all so much. That's all we got. Adios, muchachos.